You'll regret ignoring these car trends if you don't pay attention now. A lot of people want cars. They want something comfortable, durable, stylish, convenient, reliant, but lately not economical based on the high repo rates and high payments that are taking place in the auto industry right now. But nevertheless, some, if not most of us, drives a car with over-the-top trends and features that aren't necessary. Today we are going to take a look at some of these. Before we jump in, hit like if you hate wasting money. Subscribe for more straight up talk and takes in the auto industry, and drop a comment on which car trend hits you the hardest. Number one on my list is the touchscreen centric controls. Cars actually are ditching the buttons right now. They shove every function into a screen menu. You tap through the layers just to turn on the heat, and you take your eyes off the road for a bit. You waste seconds and might get yourself into a crash. That car screen menu adds an additional 5 seconds per change, and you'll wish you'll had a dial.
And number four, touchscreens that don't have the option to not use the touchscreen. By that, I mean in this car, which is a Nissan, you have to use the touchscreen to, for example, use your satellite navigation. Whereas in a lot of cars, like Mini, for example, you have the dial that can control everything on the screen as well as having a touchscreen. The dial is far easier to use than having to try and fiddle around on this screen, particularly while the vehicle is in motion.
My number two is subscription-based features. Heated seats went from a one-off cost to now a monthly fee. You pay $5 per month to warm your butt, and you sign up once and then you totally forget about it. Now you pay indefinitely. You feel trapped having this feature on your car. Number three is fake engine sounds. Electric cars sound hollow. Car makers now pump in a fake rumble and you hear a soundtrack through the speakers. It feels forced. You want the real engine tone instead. You get that synthetic noise. But because hybrid and electric cars, they are extremely quiet. Then we have the complex infotainment systems. Big screens, they look slick and everything. They load slow and they glitch. You spend more time waiting than driving. You miss the simple knobs and you learn the new software. Every single model comes out with a new one. Number five on my list is the rise in vehicle prices. Sticker shock hits hard. New cars cost an average over $45,000. And you're going to kick yourself for not buying last year's model. You can't rewind time.
$50,000 to $80,000 for new trucks? Ford, GMC, Chevy, have you lost your minds? Both of these companies, guys, this quarter were on TV complaining about the tariffs and saying that GMC have lost over $1.1 billion in the second quarter of 2025. And Ford said it lost more than $2 billion, and it blamed the tariffs. Now, I'm sure the tariffs make everything much more expensive, but Honda has record sales last quarter. Toyota has record sales last quarter. Tesla's down, but that's different, isn't it? Another reason there, we're not going to go into this video. But like, how do you expect people to be able to afford these trucks? You guys forget what a truck is? Like, a truck is something that you buy in order to throw crap in the back of it and be able to work, be able to haul your boat, be able to, throw your family's crap in there and go to the beach. Like, it's a truck. It's a work vehicle. Now, if you want to buy a Honda, if you want to buy a Toyota and you want to spend $40,000 or $50,000 on a truck, like a Tacoma, a Tundra, originally, I actually get it. I actually understand that, because that truck, as long as you change the oil on the thing regularly, is going to go 350 or 450,000 miles. How many times do you drive down the freeway and see 100 Tacomas that are old as shit, that are still driving like 300,000 or 400,000 miles later? They're everywhere. But you buy yourself an F-150, buy yourself a Silverado, buy yourself a GMC, 150,000 miles, got to replace the transmission. Going to be super expensive to maintain and upkeep. Yes, there's F-150s over 200, 250,000 miles. And the trucks are actually the thing that these companies make the best, but they're still completely out of their minds with what they're trying to charge us, especially with who these vehicles are for. Now, this is what you have as you get into a quality thing versus a price thing. The same thing with Stellantis. It's like Jeep and Land Rover and Range Rover. All these things constantly break. They have terrible track records for reliability. Their, repair costs are astronomical, guys. And these trucks are expensive to fix as well. So I get that people need a trunk, but you guys trying to charge people $50,000, plus $1,000 for cloth seats in a base level truck is completely insane. And yes, you can blame other things. You can blame inflation, you can blame economy, you can blame, anything that you want. Blame the tariffs, blame the president, whatever you want. But the point is, you guys are drastically overcharging for trucks that are poor quality, that break down at 150 plus thousand miles and are very expensive to fix. This is your own fault. Let me know if you think I'm right or wrong on this one.
The thing is, number one, they don't care. It's all about recuperating the costs. And number two, they look at the point that if you buy a truck, you're going to work that truck. So you're looking at the long-term benefit that you'll be making back the money. If you're working a truck, you should be making enough money to recoup the money spent on that truck. And then you can also write that truck off if you're actually running a legitimate business. And number three, if you're an individual, then that's where the problem comes in. They lock you into that 5 to 7 year repayment rate, and you'll be owned by them for life. And that's why number 6 on my list is overly large wheels. Fancier wheels measure 51 centimeters or about 20 inch, and they destroy the right comfort. You feel every bump. You pay at least $200 per tire, and you will regret that look later on. Number 7 on my list is over-reliance on driver assistance. The adaptive cruise control and lane keep promise relief. You lean back, you lose the skill. You panic when you switch to manual, and because you depend too much on the technology too often. Number 8 is the complicated engine downsizing. Automakers, they swap out the V6 for a 1.5 liter turbo, and they promise to give you 0.5 liters per 100 kilometer gain. You're going to be paying big repair bills because that turbo is going to go. They don't make them like they used to. Efficiency will come at a cost. Number 9 on my list is the aggressive styling. Giant grills and sharp angles look bold, but they add an additional $1,000 to the body repair bill. You scratch a bumper, you chip that grill, you pay more. You're going to be wishing that they kept it simple. Number 10 is excessively low roof lines. You have sleek roofs, they cut the headroom. If you're at least 1.8 meters, that's 6 feet tall, you're going to hit your head. Rear passengers are going to crouch. You're going to deal with blind spots. You're going to cringe every time you drive to try to turn around and to maneuver in that tight space. Number 11 is one of the most annoying to me, which is eliminating the spare tires. Run flat tires and repair kits save 10 kilograms, but they often fail. Take it from me, I know, because it happened to me. While trying to inflate my tires, I accidentally broke off the tire valve. Well, it was old and brittle. I bought a used car. And when I went around the back to check for a spare tire, lo and behold, all I saw was an inflated pump. The tire was already flat. There was nothing the pump could do. I had to sit and wait for a mobile tire repair. It costed me $160, just like that. So I think I'm going to try and get a temporary spare and go back to the old method and shop online for a jack and a lug tool to go along with it. A lot of people like myself are going to have to call for a tow truck if they get a nail, or you're going to have to miss a real tire. Having that spare tire is actually paying for peace of mind.
Don't you just hate when a customer is right? Customer states, my vehicle did not come with a spare tire. Please check and advise. Let's take a look here. It should be right under here. Nope. Guess the customer was right. Doesn't come with a spare tire.
Does anyone else's car not come with a spare tire? I bought this car brand new, 2021, and I'm just now realizing that it didn't come with a spare tire. Like, what is this? No tire, but I have this? Like, what is this? I mean, this is insane. Is it just me? Does anyone else's car come with a spare tire? This is dangerous. Just curious. I mean, no tire.
No, it's not only just your car, and that's one of the things about buying a car. You have to look at the fine print. And in today's modern cars, having a spare tire is also included in the fine print. When you're shopping around for a vehicle, you have to check everything thoroughly. Number 12 is the annoying start-stop system. The engine cuts at red lights. It restarts with a jolt. You're going to count the milliseconds, and you wish for a smooth idling. You disable it if your car lets you. But there's a lot of DIY videos now on YouTube thankfully to those mechanics, and I praise them every single day, who are finding shortcuts and telling and teaching us how to actually get rid of those annoying start-stop implications. When they first came out, it wasn't that easy, but now manufacturers have heard our call and trying to allow a situation where the start-stop button can actually work in order to eliminate it. A lot of the features right now you're seeing in the vehicles are mandated by government control, so it's not overly entirely the manufacturer's fault.
The most useless modern car feature that I wish that my car would not have, that anybody's car would not have, is the auto start stop system. It's like 10 more additional parts on your car that tend to go out. They are all crazy expensive. The idea, right, is to save the environment and be able to put less wear and tear on the engine. But really all you're doing is you're starting your car like 20 more times a day. So wear things out a little bit faster. And then if you have a Jeep, and if you're a Jeep owner and you've got the start-stop system, you will notice that you have to have like 10 different functions work correctly. And if one of the batteries go bad, then a bunch of things. That is the most useless thing here. Cars did not need it before. They still don't need it. I'm not a fan.
Stop and start is the worst feature ever fitted to a car in the history of motoring. So many things to dislike about stop and start. For starters, why do you have to switch it off? Why is it not that you start your car and you switch it on if you want to use it? No one would ever switch it on. It would always be off. But why can it not be that way around? Why do I have to get in my car every morning and turn this thing off? Now, I know you can probably have this disabled if you want to so that it never comes on. I'm aware of that, but it shouldn't be that difficult. You should better just start your car and drive without having to turn this thing off. Secondly, does it really save you any money on fuel? A penny here or there, maybe, certainly not enough money to outweigh the absolute annoyance of having to turn this thing off every single time. Now, it's not actually as annoying in a manual as it is in an auto, because in a manual, for it to work, your foot has to be down, or the car has to be in neutral, I should say, with your foot off the clutch. But I drive an automatic, and in that, you just got to stop at a junction, put your foot down on the brake while you're stopped, and it will cut out. Really annoying. Worst thing ever designed. Tell me I'm wrong.
And the worst thing about it is that we can't do anything about it, much more than just paying those hefty payments on a monthly basis. Number 13, last but not least, is those complicated gear selector. Buttons, dials, toggles replaced by sticks. And you press the wrong button and you roll backwards into the garage. You are going to miss the good old gear shifting feel, and I certainly miss it myself. And believe it or not, there are thousands of people out there who still don't know how to drive a manual stick.
So a lot of you guys seem to not like Hyundai's new gear selector because of where it's located, right by the steering wheel. You twist it this way to go into drive, twist it backwards to go into reverse, into park, but to go into neutral, you just twist it halfway in either direction. Now, yes, it's in a similar location to your windshield wiper controls, but it's really hard to accidentally use because it doesn't move up or down. But the benefit to having it here is the fact you get this large center storage compartment. When you remove this tray and the center divider, it's one large bin.
You can see there's no benefit of having a gear lever right there beside the windshield wiper control. Absolutely none.
2 pop-out cup holders when you want to use them, and you can slide them back in when you don't need them. But if you're still not a fan of this and all the added practicality it gets you, Hyundai will still sell you a version with the standard gear selector. They also gave you a wireless charger over here with this rubber lip, so if you don't want to use it, you can just place it here like a phone stand and grab and go whenever you need it. Another thing I really do appreciate about this car is the fact that in reverse, you get a full 360 surround view camera system in this car, which lets you pan around the car, making it super helpful to park in tight spaces. This car also has what's called Hyundai Pay, where you can save your credit card information and it'll use it to pay for things like parking.
And that's one of the fundamental downfall in these new vehicles, much less have something reliable, durable, and dependable to get it from point A to point B.
I just did an oil change on this truck, and this is the gear selector. What happens if Iggy Azalea comes on? I'm in the fucking highway. I'm going to end up in reverse in the fast lane.
You can see this is coming up, and I cannot select the gear. This is electronic shifter for Range Rover, and it has mechanism.
From the moment she mentioned Range Rover, you know all the problems that exist with it.
Sensor inside. This shifter is stuck. It can happen because of the time kilometers is more than 500,000. Why it can stuck else? Water and heavy dust.
This is the rotary gear selector in the 2023 Ford Escape.
you turn it to select your gear, obviously.
The first thing he said, it's a Ford. And remember the acronym for Ford, fix or repair daily.
But the thing about this one is it can just keep spinning. There's no stopping point when you get to drive or to park, which is kind of weird. So you have to really be paying attention to what gear you're selecting.
You just saw 13 trends we can't reverse, and you'll pay for ignoring them. You have to plan ahead. Adjust your next purchase. Subscribe for more direct takes. See you in the comments, and see you in the next episode.